People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make believe.
Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of Will You Accept This Prose? I am your author, Max Churchwell.
I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Britton.
And you know, the outro that we have for this podcast came from how it's normally bullshit when Chris Harrison says that the next episode is going to be the most dramatic episode ever. But between the teaser we get at the beginning of this episode and the very emotional ending of this episode, I dare say Chris Harrison was right last week. That it is, in fact, the most dramatic episode in Bachelor history.
I think so. And the thing is, it took a while to get to it, because this episode really does just drag on.
Yes, it goes on for quite a bit, but then it catches you right at the very end. It creeps up behind you and actually means anything.
Right.
That's the scary part. Okay.
Yeah, y'all, the ending of this episode, first time watching it, I cried.
It does hit very hard.
I'm going to be honest. I cried watching The Bachelor.
And while that is shameful and you've brought dishonor on yourself and your family, it's to an extent it is valid. But we'll get into why it is valid later on. Let's talk right now about this teaser that establishes the oncoming drama, the proeretic codes that come from this teaser.
What's a proeretic code, Max?
A proeretic code is an event that takes place in a narrative that establishes that in a short amount of time a question will be answered. So that's this, every teaser establishes something that, you know, you're about to find out, even if it does take the entire goddamn episode, you are about to find out. Whereas another type of action code, a hermeneutic code, is something that establishes a question or a mystery, an enigma that will be resolved later on. So, but basically, episode teasers, proeretic, season teaser, hermeneutic.
Cool. Well, in this specific episode teaser, there are really only two big things that I want to mention. So it is revealed that Melissa has a one-on-one date. But the problem here, a problem arises. Jason has to change plans.
A change of plans.
Uh-oh.
And when that is, so that's revealed in this teaser because the phone rings, and then Chris Harrison basically jumps in with the narration of, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
And the second that phone rings, the music goes from this kind of bright and peppy, like, here we go with another episode, to the, like, someone's about to die on Scrubs music.
Yeah.
Is more or less what it cuts to.
Yeah, How to Save a Life by the Fray.
Yeah, the Fray starts playing just instantly. And it's so it's not even like a smooth transition. I don't think they put effort. Sudden. They did not put effort into where the other song would actually end. So it kind of just faded out super quickly. Mm-hmm. Without being resolved whatsoever, and then immediately shifted. So, like, I am going to later, while editing, give an example of this. Anyway, let's talk about... That's where that fade-out's going to be. Did you hear it at home? It was right before anyway. You'll know. Let's get... So, other than this dramatic music change, what's the other big thing that's revealed in this teaser?
So, we get a clip of a huddle of women. A group of women crying. And this is something that comes up in multiple teasers within the episode. But the interesting thing is they're not showing the same clip every time. They're not even showing the same huddle every time.
Yes, I was going to say there are different groups and there are different sort of moments that are being shown. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting. I don't think we often get almost a multifaceted teaser for a specific, I guess, scene.
Mm-hmm. Which I wonder if they're just trying to throw off who is the one who's not in this huddle, in this specific huddle.
They don't want to give away anything regarding, like, who it is that gets chopped.
Right. What is a group of bachelorettes called?
Damn. I don't want to use a term that actually exists as far as, like, I can't say a gaggle, I can't say a flock, a school, a murder, a cloud. That's what sheeps are. Group of sheeps is a cloud.
What? I didn't know that.
If I'm remembering correctly, now I have to look it up. So,
what? That is so cool.
sorry, friends at home. Let's find out together whether or not a group of sheep is called a cloud. Oh man, I must be thinking of.
Don't tell me, Matt.
What the hell? This says it's a flock, and that seems wrong.
A flock of sheep.
That's flock of sheep.
That's what I have heard.
This seems wrong, but this says bats are called a cloud.
They're very specific.
Bears are called a sloth or a sleuth. What's going on, bears? What's going on? Let's see. Group of bachelorettes. How about, and I feel like this works, we're going to say contestants on an ABC Bachelor family of products, I think, because I think it's called just a bachelor. It's either a bachelor or a bushel.
I like bachelor.
A bushel of bachelors or bachelorettes, though. Think about that.
Either one is good.
We'll say it's interchangeable, since apparently sloth or sleuth is what bears are called. So we have bachels or bushels.
Okay. Yeah, but we get multiple shots of different bachels of women.
Indeed. To make sure they don't single out the one member of the bachelor that got lost.
Yeah.
That Chris Harrison had to go and find. He left the other women so that he could find the one stray. Chris Harrison, the second coming. Okay. Let's go. Let's find out what else happened.
The episode starts. We're in Seattle.
Well, no, now in fairness, Chris Harrison comes in and says, everybody, we're all leaving.
Yeah.
So, get ready. I forget what he says, but I think it really is, they have 30 minutes at most to get ready to go. Yeah, and we know for sure that Stephanie has 5 suitcases of accessories. So.
Yeah, and Molly and Jillian both just have to have a suitcase full of scarves.
Do you think... Okay. So if you're a contestant living in Bachelor Mansion, do you unpack or do you live out of your luggage? Because you're going to have to... If you unpack, you're repacking every date that you go on.
Yeah.
So I feel like the smart move is to not unpack whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think I would. Just because, I mean, even if you're going on a one-on-one date, you have to pack. Even if you're super confident in your chances, you still have to, per rules.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't let you leave the house unless you are ready to leave the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and you know what else that sort of just occurred to me? You can live out of your luggage, but do you have to have an empty suitcase to put dirties in? Because nobody's doing laundry.
Do they do laundry?
I don't think anybody's doing laundry. I think you're either wearing dirties or you're wearing everything
and
once.
They have so many, cocktail dresses they wear. Do they
dry
clean
those?
You do
not wear multiple dresses. No, that's a one and done.
Do they just throw them away? Well, I mean,
they're burning them.
After every week, they have all the women who are left
ceremonial
have a big
burning.
bonfire.
Yes. Actually, I think it's more of they play taps and they burn the dresses of the woman who got sent home. I think that's what it is. Stephanie very operatically is singing, what you say? Okay, let's move on to something important.
Yeah, the most important thing in any episode of this 2009 season of The Bachelor is that we see all 5 women wearing scarves at the same time.
The full bachelor is wearing scarves. It's like it's a uniform. There's no proper Bachelor uniform, but it's demanded in 2009 that you have a scarf at some point.
At some point, you do have to have a scarf. Every single one of the women are wearing scarves.
It's too bad there wasn't more travel in this season, because I feel like every leaving the house to go fly somewhere shot would have had everyone in a scarf. We would know for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So we get a little bit of Jason. He gets to go home to Seattle. And the reason why Seattle is so important is because it is Jason's hometown.
Yes, which this is unorthodox.
Yeah. So he gets to go home and see Ty. He said he hasn't seen Ty in a little over a week, which I find interesting because have they been flying Ty in to see Jason? Because this has been going on for more than a week, or have they been flying Jason out to see Ty?
I think Ty is a flat Stanley, and they just mail him back and forth with overnight shipping. I think that's what it is. He's crate trained.
They put him in one of those envelopes that just says "Do not bend."
Yeah, they put him in a crate marked Fragile. But okay, Jason mentions the fact, if you'll recall, at the end of last week's episode, he sent 3 women home instead of 2 women.
Yes.
And he says specifically here that's because he only wanted to bring women to Seattle that he could see a forever with.
Yes.
And I respect that decision.
I was going to say, I really like that because he did not see a future at all with Megan, Lauren, or Shannon.
Yeah. And for him to... one thing that is interesting to me, though, is that, like, that means he already knew the travel was going to be the next week. So I wonder if, like, he was actually the one to say, I want to go to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take this Bachelor to Seattle.
Yeah, because it's different than, like, a hometown. When it comes down to the final 2, they'll do hometown dates where they will go and meet Jason's whole family.
Mm-hmm.
But this is different. It's not a come here, meet my family, see where I came from. It's just I really like Seattle. And I want to show you guys Seattle because it's my hometown that I love so much.
Yeah. And we're about to see something on this first date that shows Jason really is sort of distancing from the traditional hometown date, even as he gets sort of thrown a curveball. So let's talk about that curveball. What all do we see when this first date card is delivered?
So the date card is delivered. Melissa gets it. She is so excited. She's doing a little dance. The women are excited for her, which I love. I don't know. There's something about the women this season that they seem to be really good friends.
Yeah, there is a really interesting dynamic between all of them.
It's very refreshing in a show like this.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's weird, too, because it's both I support you because you're my friend, and but we are dating the same guy, so I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, and while there's one person that's especially jealous at this date card, which is Naomi, because she has not had a one-on-one date yet.
Right. Melissa has had, I want to say 2 one-on-one dates. Maybe just the one.
I was going to say, if nothing else, she has had more than Naomi has, without question.
She has had at least one-on-one date, and she has had a lot of one-on-one time with Jason. Mm-hmm. Jason does tend to go back to Melissa quite often, which goes back to her being the perfect match edit. Maybe he does spend a more equal amount of time with these women, but we are shown Melissa so much because they seem to be so perfect for each other.
Yeah, that's the footage that has the most value to the producers and the editors. So that's what they want to publicize. And man, I can't wait until we can sort of talk about the resolution of that.
Oh.
Hey, everybody at home, here comes a hermeneutic action code. The Bachelor producers and editors chose Melissa. And one could argue they wanted to fight for Melissa.
They wanted to fight. They did fight for Melissa.
Yeah, no. But there's parallelism in that quote, and we'll get back to it later.
Several episodes later, so it'll be a big callback.
Yes. But okay, we see everyone excited except a little bit of Naomi feeling a little bit left out, understandably.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of helps Melissa get ready. They're
Yeah.
sort of like in on. Well, they're very supportive. There's a lot of. They're the hype men, essentially.
Yes, I love that. Women supporting women is my favorite thing.
And it is not common enough on this show.
It is not. And then we see Jason getting ready as well at his home with Ty. So he doesn't have the typical bachelor pad that the bachelor normally stays in, separate from the bachelor mansion.
Yeah.
He gets to stay at his own home, which is super cool. I would have loved to stay in my own home.
I was going to say, it must have been a very refreshing change.
Yeah, and so Ty's there, Jason's getting ready, and Ty is being a little grumpy pants.
That's how Jason put it, being a grumpy pants. I do want to point out, though, that the timing of what it is that's happened, I suppose, is that just as Jason started getting ready and was going to change shirts is when Ty got upset and ran off to his own bedroom. So Jason follows him and is still shirtless.
Of course.
And then after we see Jason talking about, like, do you want to go back with me so that I can get ready, or do you want me to leave you to lie down or whatever? And Ty's being very frustrated. And then the next shot we see, after a little talking head with Jason, I think, just saying whatever. Is this when he talks about how excited he is for the date?
I think
and
so.
And everything they're going to do on this date?
Yeah, he describes everything they're going to do. They're going to see the Space Needle, and they're going to have a romantic dinner, and they're going to do all these things.
He has a helicopter waiting.
Yes, yeah.
to take them to a waterfall. I don't know why I remember this much. Anyway.
More than me, which is surprising.
Yeah, who knew? Yeah, right after that little talking head, it cuts back, and Ty, for some reason, has rolled his shirt up, like, just way, way far. And I guess that's really this is a true example of, I learned it from watching you.
Yeah, but Ty, he does not want Jason to leave, it's very sweet. I don't know. They have a very good, a good father-son relationship is always very sweet.
And well, I mean, seemingly this is Jason's first day back in Seattle.
Right.
And so for him to be going out that night, like, of course Ty is going to be really upset about it. But it's interesting because from what we can put together, we don't see this, but it seems as if Jason sort of tried to stay home a little bit longer to comfort Ty. But as he is giving it some extra time at home to try to chill Ty out, Melissa starts to think she's being stood up because Jason ends up being like 30 minutes at least late.
Yeah, he was supposed to pick her up at 7:30, and
it's past 8 o'clock when we next see Melissa.
It's real sad. She's like sitting at the table in this whatever apartment or suite these women are at.
Yeah.
And the other women are just kind of sitting there as well. It's like you're ready for your girl to go on a date and you're real nervous because her date's not showing up, and she's sitting here in her cocktail dress and everything. You're sitting there with they're all in hoodies and they're like sweats.
Fucking chilling.
And she's worried she's gonna get stood up, which imagine being on The Bachelor.
Yeah. What does it say if you get stood up on The Bachelor?
But Jason calls. He calls Melissa and lets her know that Ty really does not want him to leave tonight. He doesn't feel comfortable leaving Ty tonight. And it seems like he's going to cancel on her. But then he says, do you want to just come to my place?
Yeah.
And I love what Melissa says because she's just like, yeah, cool. Can I wear my stretchy pants?
Yeah.
And we get a shot of the women in the kitchen just do a full, like, huh?
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
This is where, like, the spring sound sort of comes in with their shock. But, like, when it's actually, I think there's a great moment. Melissa sort of explains what's going on. And the first reaction of most of these women is like, oh, what the fuck? You get to go hang out at his house? Whereas Stephanie is super chill and she's just like, well, that's very real world. With having kids, plans change.
Which is important here to note. remember, Stephanie is now the only other parent on the show. So she understands. She knows what it's like to be a single parent with a small child who you can't just sometimes you can't leave. Sometimes you have to like plans change.
Yeah.
And she's very understanding and supportive of that.
And she doesn't say this condescendingly at all. She's just like,
Exactly.
well, that's great because that's really real world.
Mhm.
Like, it's as if she's actually almost excited for Melissa to have this opportunity.
And which is important because what we typically see from what we have seen in this season, especially, is contestants who are single moms. They have kind of a bit of a superiority complex over the women who aren't.
Mhm.
As in, I understand more what Jason is going through.
Yeah.
And because of that, I am a better match for Jason. You are not ready for Jason.
Yeah.
Megan was a big big offender there.
I remember talking about that in one of our first episodes.
Yep. So, the teaser. It's the rose ceremony, and Jason has to talk to somebody. And then we get another bushel of women.
I like that we're using the two terms interchangeably.
Of course, you have to.
Have to. Yeah, we see another group sort of hugging and crying, and there's a lot of, like... I think we may actually see it here where, like, Jason kind of is trying to say something to one of the women and gets a little bit choked up and has to stop.
He says, "You are," and he starts to get choked up, and it's... knowing the context, it's...
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait.
We'll get there. But let's talk about this date.
So Melissa gets to Jason's house, and there's a note on the door that just says, I'm putting Ty to sleep. Come on in. So she comes in, and she's still in her cocktail dress.
Yeah.
First thing she does is pick up a couple of toys that Ty has left out. She picks up some food that they had left. We had mentioned before Melissa getting the perfect match edit. This is her really fulfilling that, big quotes, wifely duties.
Yeah, I was going to say, she comes in and immediately gets very, like, homey, essentially.
She's very motherly. And the thing is, with Melissa, it does not seem like she's putting it on for the cameras. It seems very natural and genuine.
Yeah.
And then she pours her and Jason a glass of wine while she's still waiting on them.
Yeah.
For Jason to put Ty to sleep. And I wonder how long it took.
Me too. I was thinking before, like, did she truly start picking up stuff right when she walked in? Or was she eventually like, well, I gotta do something?
Yeah, I might as well.
But Jason does finally come down after getting Ty to bed.
Right, and they share a glass of wine in their nice fancy clothes. And then finally she gets to change into her stretchy pants.
Yes.
Which are shorts.
They are shorts, which unfortunately Jason does have to comment on, like, stretchy pants, those aren't really pants.
Yeah, those are a little short for stretchy pants. And immediately, like, runs his hand down her thigh.
Yep.
It's real weird, guys. I don't like it.
It's just one of those things that is very, very awkward to see.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not that it's a super gross thing to do or anything, but it's super gross to watch it happen.
Yeah, and what I thought was funny is that Melissa isn't, like, she's not playing along. She's like, no, yeah, they're my stretchy pants.
It's, dog, sorry about it.
But Jason does say that he is not ready for anyone to meet Ty yet, which I think is great.
Yes, absolutely.
He's not gonna just because Melissa happened to have this date at his house. He's not gonna be like, oh, so you get a super leg up in this race.
He does not allow her that sort of privilege.
Right. And it's both that and that Jason is not ready to have Ty meet someone if he's not for sure that this is possibly, Ty's future stepmother. it's a super important step to take.
Absolutely.
But what Jason does do is allow Melissa to kind of peek in on Ty while he's sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really sweet moment.
Yeah. And Melissa even says in her talking head something that she's like, I was standing there in the doorway with Jason behind me and like looking at his son and just, man, it could be like this.
Yeah.
She seemed very excited about it. I like Melissa. She's got this, she really is, all this like nurturing stuff seems to come very naturally to her.
Yeah, she is a very genuinely sweet woman.
Mm-hmm. Although she has a strange setup at her apartment.
Yeah, apparently so. So she is from Dallas,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, she's a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
Oh yeah. Apparently, just outside of her apartment, there's a park bench. And then just a giant large screen TV.
Yeah, she's explaining this to Jason, and Jason does not question this. Why is there a park bench in front of her apartment facing a
big screen TV?
What?
It's entirely nonsensical.
I like to imagine that she has set up this park bench to face a neighbor's window, where she can look through the window and watch their big screen TV, and that's what she's talking about.
I mean, to be fair, that makes a lot more sense than there just being a giant-ass TV out wherever the fuck.
Yeah, where she watches baseball and football.
Mm-hmm. So many sports.
So then we get a shot of the women back at home where they get a group date card. And the group date is going to be Stephanie, Molly, and Jillian. Which means Naomi does get her one-on-one date.
Very luckily.
Yeah. So on this group date, Jillian is wearing a scarf that's her second scarf.
Mm-hmm.
She's the only one who doubled up this episode.
A damnable offense, arguably.
But, you know, it's not the worst fashion choice.
Unfortunately, it is not. Poor Stephanie is wearing a fuzzy hooded vest.
And it's not just like fleece, it's not just like a little bit of fur. It is so big. This vest is so fuzzy.
It's just about on par with a feather boa. But what makes it worse is that beneath this vest, she is wearing a black shirt with a starburst pattern in the background that has a bedazzled Statue of Liberty. And I believe
and
the word love.
The word love in like that hippie font.
Yeah. Stephanie,
you know,
this how you do me? You really had to... Don't go breaking my heart, Stephanie.
You know, last episode we mentioned the Ed Fermi shirts. This is the female version of that.
Mm-hmm. I don't even have time to come up with a good female version of Ed Fermi, so we gotta keep going.
The three women and Jason, they go on this boat, and Stephanie gets to become the captain of the ship for a little bit.
Fake
and
ass.
Steer the boat. She does do a full, just like, turn of the wheel as she's casually talking to Jason.
It's like very small. It's as if she genuinely does, and I mean, who knows whether or not this helm was fake, but she genuinely is kind of like, oh, well, we're going like a little bit to the right here. Let me just pop us back over. There we go.
Yeah. So we get a teaser where Jason is asking Jillian if she thinks her expectations are realistic. And there's a real weird cut on Jillian there.
Yeah. So normally in a teaser, when there's like a really difficult question like this asked, you get to see the sort of like facial expression that the person who is asked that question has in response to it. This, like, it holds on just her facial reaction for a second, and then you see this big, like, inhale as if she's about to, like, really lay things out, and it cuts right on that.
Yeah.
It just stood out to me. I'm not sure why.
But back to the show. The three women on this group date, they are going to a radio station. What are their names? Jackie and Bender on Kiss FM.
Mm-hmm.
And this radio show is bad.
It's very lazy, I think. From what we see, at least, it's very lazy.
Right. Which I even wonder, I don't think they would air this.
We know that they aired it for the two women not on this date back in the hotel room.
Right. Yeah, so we see Naomi and Melissa sitting in the hotel room with a radio.
Yep.
Which had to have been given to them by the producers.
It was not there. Like a special little end table was brought in with a radio on it.
Yeah.
And they were just like it was already tuned in. They just had to turn it on and then walk out of the room.
Yeah.
And I feel like it meant nothing to these women until that interview started. Like, what if they just didn't know? They weren't even paying attention, and then they hear Jason's voice, and it's just, huh!
Yeah. What if they're just like really big fans of Jackie and Bender?
They elected to tune in, and they're like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. They were like, we're here with Jason and 3 of the women from his season, and they're like, hey!
Yeah, what? Which is a big time spoiler. Like,
yeah, that was
now everybody knows 3 of the final 5 women.
I was about to say that's the main reason I don't think that they would air this, because it's one, it's spoilers for who is left. 2, this was filmed months before, or a month. I don't know.
At least a hot minute before. The thing is, this is a really elaborate runaround if it wasn't going to be aired. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say.
It's weird. I don't know.
But let's talk about all the whack little segments on this show.
Yeah, so first they put Stephanie, Molly, and Jillian into a booth separated from Jason so that they can't hear what he's saying. They can see him, but they're not hearing what he's saying.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they sit there and pretend, they fill in. It's a bad lip reading.
Yeah, essentially.
But, so Jackie and Bender ask Jason about who had the best date, which he said it was Stephanie.
Because of the date with Sophia.
Yeah. Which is fair.
Yeah.
Then he is asked, who is the best kisser?
Yeah.
And instead of being more tactful with this answer, he's just like, I'd say Molly.
Yeah, pretty quickly he goes ahead and says Molly. And the thing is, like, the women at home question this too. Like, is he specifically talking about those 3 women, or is he talking about this season as a whole?
Yeah. What if
I would say it's got to be just those women, though, right? Because if this really aired, they're not going to be like, yeah, go ahead and drop some more names about who it is you like.
Right. Yeah, I actually think Nikki was the best kisser.
Yeah, Nikki was probably the best kisser.
But I don't know, it was just weird of him to answer it like that.
It was. It was very odd, but it gets weirder than just asking who the best kisser was.
Yeah, because then they bring the 3 women in,
mm-hmm.
and they have a kissing contest where Jason is blindfolded
with a feather boa,
a pink feather boa, which that's nothing. That is nothing as a blindfold.
It isn't, but it certainly is easy and convenient to kiss around. A big feather boa around like 2/3 of the person's face. That makes it easy to kiss them.
And why did they have that boa?
They just pointless. Well, drama, just for drama.
Yeah, I mean it's a completely audio format. Why do they need a pink feather boa? But anyway, they blindfold Jason, and the women have to kiss him, and he has to guess who has kissed him, who the kisses are.
Well, they all kiss him, and then he has to, order, be like, it was this one, this one, this one.
Mm-hmm. So they all take different approaches. Jillian...
she goes in pretty hard.
She does.
Was she not also the woman who went in pretty hard on the General Hospital day?
No, that was Megan.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. For some reason in my head, they look so similar.
I see that. They do look kind of similar.
But Jillian goes in.
Jillian says that she shoved her tongue into his mouth, and touched his tonsils. Touched his tonsils.
And she phrases it in this talking head as if it was like, he'll know for sure. That's my thing. He'll know. And then comes back and is like, I'm just kidding. But why, Jillian? Why did you feel a need to kid about that?
That's just her kissing style. Every time that she kisses him,
I was going to say,
she's like, immediately.
It genuinely is her kissing style.
They have to have a trash can like right next to
just
Jason.
In case. Because you never fucking know. But then we also get some weird discussion of the women's sex lives.
Right, yeah. So Jason does guess all the women correctly. And then the women are asked what their whole thing is in the bedroom. And it's... why?
You didn't have to, Bachelor. You didn't have to, Jackie and Bender.
Well, that's the thing. Did Jackie and Bender come up with these questions, or did the producers?
If it was the producers, then Jackie and Bender better have gotten a big old paycheck for just voice acting this episode of The Bachelor.
Okay, so then after the radio show, they go to dinner. And I think it's very interesting that you see some more of just how close these women are. Just this, like, casual platonic intimacy they have with each other. Because Molly and Jillian are just holding hands. Like, they're just walking around holding hands. And it's very cute.
It's pretty cute. Just super cash.
So at this dinner, I thought it was very fun. They have all these, like, weird foods. And they're sitting there trying to figure out what the heck they're eating.
Yeah.
But Jason pulls Jillian aside to have that conversation that we got teased earlier. Jillian does not seem happy to be having this conversation.
Yeah. In fact, I think actually in one of the... maybe it was a teaser, I'm not sure. There was a thing about like, hey, Jillian, can I talk to you for a sec? And then you see Jillian just doing this big like... on the couch.
Right.
I don't know when that actually happened, but to be fair, her demeanor does seem like that was an appropriate way to set the tone.
Yeah, that was a good edit, but when that moment actually happens, when he does pull Jillian aside when on the couch, she immediately is like, oh yeah, sure, let's talk.
Yeah.
The big sigh was something completely different. But in this conversation, he kind of asks her what's up, what's going on, you don't seem... so there seems to be something off with you. And she says that she did not come on this show expecting a connection with Jason.
Yeah, she talks about she came on to meet the women and do something. I believe she actually says do something nobody else has done.
Yeah,
and
she
it's
said
like,
she came for the travel, she came to meet the women, she came to do something no one had done before.
Yeah, and dog, you walked into that house with 30 women total. So yeah.
On the 13th season of The Bachelor, so many people have done this before, Jillian.
A lot of people have done this before. But that's sort of that conversation is ultimately the biggest thing that happens on that group date.
Right.
And then we finally get Naomi's date card.
Yeah, so Naomi gets her first date card. So she gets it when she and Melissa are by themselves in the apartment. There's this weird tension between them when this date card comes in.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of actually, ironically, the opposite of when Melissa got the date.
Yeah.
I mean, they were definitely jealous and upset when she got to go to his house, but like she got the date card and everybody was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now Naomi gets the date card and Mel's kind of like, oh, that's great. Oh, isn't that good for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dog, you just went to his house. How you really gonna be like?
Exactly.
I hate that you get to go to dinner with him.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing with Melissa. Like, she has some great moments, but then it's like, she is the one who gets the most jealous about these things with Jason.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's a weird thing going on in her head. On this date, whenever whenever they go on one-on-one dates, sometimes they are dropped off. Like the Bachelor is dropped off in one place and stands around and waits for the contestant to show up.
Yeah.
And they, it's always, they never pull the car up right next to the Bachelor.
Never.
Because there has to be a big run and jump into Jason's arms. And this one was so long.
Yeah.
Naomi is dropped off so far away from
like
Jason.
At least 25 yards away from Jason. And then we see like both of them do a jog for like maybe 6 steps, and all of a sudden they're together on the next cut.
Yeah.
Like, why do you do this if you aren't going to use that footage? If you're going to make them start out that far apart, you better show me the whole goddamn run.
So then we cut away from this date back to the hotel room with the women, and Stephanie is talking to Sophia on the phone. We get a little snippet of their conversation, and this is, y'all, it's one of the cutest moments ever, because she's talking to Sophia on speaker, and the other women are just surrounding the phone, doing their aw,
yeah,
and it's so casual. Like Melissa's sitting there, she's got a face mask on. They're all in their pajamas. It's just, I love these moments. But then we get Stephanie. We get a talking head of her saying that she doesn't think Naomi is as mature as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
She says something about she doesn't see Naomi as Jason's perfect match.
Yeah. But she says it with this real, like, it's a very detached tone.
Right. It seems like she was pushed to give her opinion on Naomi when she would not have otherwise.
Yeah.
It seemed very much, sometimes these talking heads, most of the time these talking heads seem like I want to talk about this thing. This one seemed very much like this is an answer to a question that I was asked.
Yeah. There was a very guiding question.
Right.
That she didn't truly care to touch on, but...
Yeah. And then we get another shot at a completely different time at the hotel where the women are sitting in the bathroom, and there's just this huge bathtub, and I think it's Melissa and Jillian are sitting in the tub in their bathing suits with bubbles everywhere.
Bubbles everywhere. Melissa's drinking Jillian's drinking a beer.
Yeah.
At one point, Jillian is very clearly just recently done a bubble beard.
Yeah, we see her put bubbles in her hand, and the next shot she has just like a few bubbles left on her chin, and it's like she definitely just had a bubble beard. But the thing is, like, they're not goofing at this moment, they're having a serious conversation.
Yeah. They're just chill as hell.
Yeah, like they're talking about having shared insecurities with Jason, and they don't know if Naomi's done that yet, and they're talking about how do they think Naomi's doing on the date, but they're just chilling in the tub with bubbles. And the other women are sitting in the bathroom as well. It's just very funny to me. So then we get back to the date. They go on, they have a little seaplane date, and then they go to a rock climbing place.
A sporting goods store that includes a large area to rock climb.
Yeah, it was definitely not a specifically made rock climbing gym.
They went to a real fancy Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, and Naomi is wearing this beanie that's just sitting.
Yeah.
It is perched so precariously on the very back of her head.
We can't. So throughout this episode, very early on, there was this whole thing, where when Melissa got the date card, Naomi was talking about, I still haven't been on a one-on-one yet and everything. And now that she's on this first one-on-one, she's kind of laying everything on thick.
Yeah, she is definitely not, she's acting weird. She's acting different. It seems to me like she's overcompensating for having not had a one-on-one yet.
Yeah, she's sort of saying everything she can to be like, well, no, I'm a perfect match for you too.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem authentic. And it seems like Jason is picking up on that as well, because he seems detached from a lot of the things that she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get another teaser of Jillian's talk with Jason, and then we get a shot of the rose ceremony. We get Chris Harrison saying, "Who will go?" as the camera lands on Naomi, who is crying.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we get another bushel of women in this teaser.
Well, we see Naomi crying, and I think we see some women walking over to comfort her, but before anything specific is shown, it cuts away.
Right.
So we come back, and Jason shows up at this hotel room, and
this is when he asks to talk to her, and in the teaser, it was the big
sigh.
Yeah, and in this one, she's just like, yeah, let's go. But when they're there, Jillian really does not seem like she wants to talk to Jason.
Yeah.
It's weird. She's got this weird energy going on. I don't know. I cannot put my finger on what is going on with Jillian here.
She gives off this vibe as if she's fulfilling an obligation.
Right.
More than anything else.
And the main thing they talk about is Jason. Jason is worried that she's not ready for the commitment, I guess. Like, the commitment aspect is weird for her. He says something about her being the strong ones for the girls in the house, and Jillian responding with, "Do you feel like I am too strong?"
Yeah. That conversation got just really weird. She was a very odd kind of defensive, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. She is, I think, fulfilling a character archetype. She's the career woman. I think that's the edit she is being given here. Like, from the very beginning, it was made clear that her career is very important to her. She's a restaurant designer. And so I think she is the career woman who might be afraid of commitment, I guess. She's not here for love. She's got her priorities maybe are not where the Bachelor would want them to be.
Yeah.
But it is now the night of the rose ceremony, and we get a shot of Jason at his house. What's he wearing, Max?
So, if you'll recall, in last week's episode of this podcast, I mentioned the fact that Jason had a shirt and tie combination that made it look like the Kool-Aid Man had just barfed all over him. And so he's in this weird, like, purple and maroon, maybe, striped shirt, and then a, like, violet with black, almost argyle, like these black diamonds for his tie. And then is wearing a dark black suit over the two of them. And it's just a whole big mess.
It's a whole big mess. It's very bad.
It is. It's drowned out a little bit, though, in the shot that keeps coming up as he's having this very serious, stream of consciousness comment on a talking head, where he's standing on his back porch, but there's a perfectly positioned light to where the only thing lit is his face.
Yeah, you cannot see the rest of his body hardly at all. It's just his face. And the producers are just like, we cannot look at that outfit anymore.
Hey, yeah, you have to stand right there, dog. Don't move.
Hit your mark, Jason.
Find your light. But then Chris Harrison shows up.
Yes, Chris Harrison shows up. He asks Jason about the women, how he's feeling about tonight, what he thinks about the women. And he asks specifically what could be some drawbacks for Melissa. Like, what is Melissa's con list? And Jason is his response is she too perfect? Is she too good to be true? He has nothing bad to say about Melissa.
No, I believe that was... It wasn't Chris Harrison's question, is she too perfect? Because I believe it was Chris saying that to further establish the perfect match edit.
Maybe. I can't remember specifically, but Jason for sure said that she might be too good to be true. I remember that specifically, but he wasn't asked about the other women in that context. He was asked, what do you like about the other women? There was no, what are some drawbacks to dating them? Melissa was the only one being asked, and I wonder if it's because we haven't seen anything with Melissa that would lead us to believe he would not choose her.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get to the rose ceremony, and they're ready, they're in their dresses, they're lined up, and Jason shows up, and before he gives out the first rose, he decides he needs to talk to Naomi again. He needs to have one more conversation. And this is when we have our first battle of women crying, because Molly, for some reason, thinks that she is the one going home, and the women come over to comfort her, and they have a big hug moment. And then we get Jason outside. The thing he wanted to talk to Naomi about is he wanted to ask if she's ready for his lifestyle, because she's been single for a while. She's been living the single life. I think she's like 24 maybe.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And so he's asking, are you ready for #mom life? And she's like, yeah, no, I want this now. I'm done with that. I've gotten that out of my system, essentially. I'm not looking for that single life anymore. I am here. I'm ready to be a wife. I'm ready to be a mother. And so that's all. They go back to the rose ceremony, and in order, this is how Jason gives out the roses. So Jillian, Melissa, Molly, and then, so it's Naomi and Stephanie left. And this is, y'all, I think this has to be the longest pause I've ever seen in a rose ceremony. I timed it 26 seconds from the time Chris Harrison comes in and says, this is the final rose. Jason, go ahead. He leaves. Shot on Jason starts at 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 57 seconds. And then when he finally says Naomi, it was 1 hour, 15:23, 26 seconds. And Naomi gets the rose, which means Stephanie is going home.
Yeah. And this is where in the teaser before we saw Jason getting sort of choked up.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like, I want to say this in front of everybody. You are, and that's where he has to kind of step back for a second. And he goes into this whole thing about, like, you are the most amazing person I've ever met.
Yeah.
And like, he feels so lucky to have met her and all this good stuff.
And the women are so sad.
Yes. And this is fucking everybody's crying.
And when Naomi got the rose, the first thing she did when she walked back to her spot was grab Stephanie's hand.
Yeah.
Because she knew, this is goodbye.
And I believe all the women join hands as Jason is giving this very heartfelt speech.
Yeah, they all came together to say their tearful goodbyes to Stephanie. Because they all love Stephanie. And Stephanie loves them so much.
And she sort of on her exit says the best thing. I mean, it's certainly better than... Oh, who was it who said your wife is out there?
Oh, Shannon? Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon. Stephanie says, may you find true happiness.
Yes.
And not even as if I'm remembering correctly, not as like, let me whisper this to you as I walk away. Mm-hmm. Like, she just says, in that same conversation where he's like, I want to say this in front of everybody, she says, "May you find true happiness,"
Yeah.
and then he walks her
It's
out.
very good. And when they walk out, this is where we get another bushel of women, because they're all hugging because they have all just experienced this loss of Stephanie.
Yeah.
And Naomi seems to take it the hardest because it was her or Stephanie at the very last bit. And I think Naomi feels like, if she hadn't had that final conversation with Jason, it probably would have gone to Stephanie. Man, it was so sad. It was hard to watch, guys.
If it was not the most dramatic episode of The Bachelor in Bachelor history, it was the most emotional episode.
It was definitely the saddest. Okay, so next week on The Bachelor, this is weird. Okay, because so much is revealed in this teaser.
Yeah, we've talked before about end of episode teasers giving away a lot of stuff, but this is just like, it touches on seemingly at every larger, moment, event, whatever from next week's episode. It seems like it covers all of them. And if not, it definitely leaves the viewer wondering, well, what the hell else could be coming?
Exactly. There are no questions left unanswered because
now that's not entirely true. I do have to jump ahead for a minute. There's a lot of serious stuff, and then there's some weird stuff, and then we're seeing like the women's hometowns because that's what next week is going to be. And Naomi's mom has a dead dove in a brown paper bag. And is talking about holding a funeral for it.
Yeah, they hold a funeral for it. There's a dead dove. They name it Rosie.
They have named him Rosie, yes.
And Naomi's mom says something about it's probably there flying around.
Yeah. Essentially, she's on some I feel God in this Chili's tonight bullshit. But from that insanity, we'll jump back to talk about the more serious stuff.
Right, so
Jillian is sort of finally letting walls down a little bit.
So the narration says something about Jillian finally lets down her walls or something like that. And you think that's gonna, maybe have a little bit of Jillian talking, and then what she reveals is saved for the next episode. But no, she immediately shows her talking about my mom was diagnosed with depression and blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah. Like so much.
Yeah.
It's like they save almost nothing for next episode. But then we do get Jillian's grandmother.
Yeah, God, there's one line specifically from Jillian's grandmother, which is, I always told her I was going to take her up to northern Alberta and marry her off to some Ukrainian up there.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Jillian's grandma?
And then we get a clip of Molly's family, and of course Molly is shown at like a golf course in this Argyle sweater.
Yeah.
And then you see her family, and man, y'all, they are the waspiest wasps to ever wasp.
Yeah.
It is. She is so stereotypically the blonde, preppy, rich girl.
Yeah. Do you want to real quick, just in case, go ahead and provide a definition of WASP for anyone unfamiliar with the term?
WASP stands for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Which amounts to what? No, explain yourself. Don't just explain the acronym.
So, the family, they live in, like, a gated community. They've got a big house with a manicured lawn. They all dress in Argyle sweaters.
Yeah. That's when the dead dove moment comes up, is after the wasp's nest that is Molly's family. and then, Melissa says that her parents aren't going to meet Jason. He's going to meet some of her best friends.
Yeah, this is the weirdest thing for me, that they reveal this in this teaser. They could have just, because he says something about things don't go according to plan, or something about Melissa's hometown. But then it says Melissa saying, you're going to be meeting some of my best friends. My parents are not okay with the public nature of this, and they're not going to be meeting you.
And that's there's far more weight to that than to, Jason having to call off a date and spend the night at home
right
with Melissa. Like, and for that to have had all this cliffhangery stuff in these teasers from last episode and this episode, for something like this to be just entirely aired out, I mean, are they relying on people to forget the teaser by next week?
I don't know. I honestly, it seems just lazy.
Yeah.
The storytelling of The Bachelor is starting to get lazier as it gets to the end of the season, and I think it's because you've gotten this far, you're gonna stay. Like, you're gonna keep watching. They're not.
That's true. They don't have to work for it anymore.
Exactly.
They can give you the spark notes of the next episode in a teaser, and they know you're gonna fucking come back for that.
Exactly. It's just, I don't know, y'all. It's lazy storytelling.
It is.
Well, that was episode 5.
That's episode 5. We do get a very delightful credits scene.
Okay, yeah. So
we're back in that suite. They're all sitting at this big table, which they're sitting at it Last Supper style.
They are. Well, I feel like they do that for the cameras.
No, they do. It's still always funny to see people sitting side by side at a huge table.
Yeah. But they're eating spaghetti, which prompts Jillian and Naomi to do the whole Lady and the Tramp bit. They try multiple times. It's so funny to see them set it up, too.
Yeah, they can never quite get it how they want.
Yeah, because Naomi will, pick up some noodles in her hand and, put it in her mouth and then, string it over to Jill. It's so awkward, but it's
really
so,
weird.
It's real. It's so fun. And so they do the... eat it closer and closer, but they chicken out and they do not kiss.
Fucking cowards.
Cowards.
Yeah. There's episode 5, and an entire rundown of what episode 6 is going to be there at the very end.
Yeah, so we can just skip episode 6. We'll go right on to episode 7.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks when we are ready to do episode 7. Yeah, big episode though. Ultimately, as I was talking about at the beginning, this being the most dramatic episode. Were it not for Stephanie being the one sent home, I don't know that this episode would have been that meaningful.
Right.
At least certainly not from our experience, because we, and. Granted, we had the foreknowledge from having watched this season before, but Stephanie has been a favorite for us from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think with the drama that was going on with both Jillian and Naomi, I do feel like that footage was sort of used well as far as the organization of this episode goes to create this idea, those two women are the ones that were shown this sort of doubt from Jason, where we see Jason questioning his relationship with these women. We don't see that for Stephanie whatsoever.
No, we never saw anything, because I don't think Jason would never have anything negative to say about Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was no question about, is she a wonderful person?
Yeah.
I think
everybody knew. Everybody knew she was wonderful.
Yeah, at the end of the episode, Jason has a talking head where he says that if he could keep Stephanie as a friend forever, he would. Who wouldn't?
Yeah,
he was saying that everyone needs someone like Stephanie in their lives, which they do. I was
gonna say, I agree with this.
Guys, go find your Stephanie.
Find you a Stephanie.
Find you a Stephanie.
They don't grow on trees, but. Find you one. Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll just wrap it right up. See y'all next time for the episode that you already know everything that will happen other than who goes home. All that being said and done, I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brenton.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
My one and only prayer is that someday you'll care. my hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one will ever know how much I love you so. My prayers, my hopes, my schemes.